10 British foods Americans can't believe people actually eat. Food says so much about culture, and nowhere is this more true than in Britain. While Americans may picture fish and chips or a roast dinner when they think of British cuisine, the UK has a treasure chest of surprising dishes that raise eyebrows across the Atlantic. From blood sausages to fish pies with heads poking through the crust, these foods are adored in Britain, but often shock American visitors. Today, we'll uncover 10 British foods Americans can't believe people actually eat, and why Brits wouldn't give them up. 10. Black pudding. Black pudding isn't pudding at all, at least not in the dessert sense. It's a type of blood sausage made with pork blood, suet or fat, oatmeal, and spices. While that description might make some Americans hesitate, black pudding is a breakfast essential in many parts of the UK. Traditionally eaten as part of a full English or Irish breakfast, it has a rich, earthy flavor that pairs beautifully with eggs, bacon, and toast. The origins stretch back centuries, when wasting any part of an animal wasn't an option. Today, black pudding even enjoys gourmet status, with chefs using it in Scotch eggs or pairing it with scallops. Americans often find the idea of eating blood unusual, but for Brits, it's heritage on a plate. 9. Marmite. Few foods divide opinion like Marmite. A sticky, dark brown paste made from yeast extract. It's spread thinly on buttered toast and often paired with cheese or crackers. Its taste is intensely salty, umami-rich, and hard to describe, somewhere between soy sauce and beef bouillon. Marmite was invented in the late 19th century, taking advantage of leftover brewer's yeast. Since then, it has become one of the most iconic spreads in the UK. The brand even embraced its divisiveness with the famous slogan, "Love it or hate it." Americans often recoil after their first taste, especially if they spread it thickly like peanut butter, a rookie mistake. But for many Brits, Marmite is comfort food and a nostalgic kitchen staple. 8. Jellied eels. London's East End has a long history with eel dishes, and jellied eels are its most famous contribution. Freshwater eels are chopped, boiled, and left to set in their own gelatinous stock. The result is a quivering, wobbly dish that confuses many American visitors. Once considered cheap, nourishing street food, jellied eels were sold from stalls across London in the 18th and 19th centuries. They were often accompanied by mash and liquor, a parsley sauce, not alcohol. While their popularity has declined, they remain part of London's cultural food heritage. Americans might struggle to get past the appearance, but in Britain, they are still celebrated as a link to working-class traditions. 7. Spotted pudding. Despite its unusual name, spotted pudding is simply a suet pudding filled with dried fruit like currants or raisins, the spots. It's usually served hot with lashings of custard. This dish is a throwback to older styles of British desserts that relied on suet, animal fat, rather than butter. The heavy, rich texture makes it filling and warming, perfect for cold evenings. It has been enjoyed for centuries, making appearances in Victorian cookbooks and classic school dinners. To Americans, the combination of suet and dried fruit might sound odd, but for Brits, spotted pudding is a nostalgic treat that recalls childhood and tradition. 6. Scotch eggs. At first glance, a Scotch egg seems like something invented at a state fair. A hard or soft-boiled egg is wrapped in sausage meat, coated in breadcrumbs, and then deep-fried or baked. The result is a crunchy, savory snack with a soft surprise inside. The Scotch egg was first recorded in 1738 by London department store Fortnum and Mason. Today, it's a pub classic and a picnic favorite. There are gourmet variations with soft, runny yolks, as well as budget versions sold in supermarkets. Americans often ask why anyone would fry an egg like this, but one bite usually converts them. 5. Haggis. Scotland's national dish is legendary and sometimes intimidating. Haggis is made from sheep's heart, liver, and lungs, minced with oatmeal, onions, suet, and spices, traditionally cooked in a sheep's stomach. For centuries, haggis has been celebrated in Scottish culture, especially on Burns Night, when it's addressed in poetry by Robert Burns. It's usually served with neeps and tatties, turnips and potatoes, and washed down with whiskey. While the ingredients shock some Americans, modern haggis is full of peppery flavor and a surprisingly hearty texture. Today, vegetarian versions also exist, proving that the spirit of haggis is bigger than its casing. 4. Bread and butter. Pudding. A classic example of British thrift, bread and butter pudding turns leftovers into luxury. Slices of stale bread are buttered, layered with dried fruit, sprinkled with spices, and baked in a custard made from eggs and milk. The dish dates back at least to the 18th century, when wasting food wasn't an option. Over time, it evolved into a much-loved dessert. Modern versions use croissants, brioche, or even chocolate chips, elevating this humble pudding to restaurant menus. Americans often think it sounds like recycled bread, but once they taste its creamy caramelized goodness, they quickly understand its charm. 3. Pork pies. Nothing says British picnic quite like a pork pie. The most famous style, the Melton Mowbray pork pie, is made with hot water crust pastry filled with seasoned pork and surrounded by savory jelly. It's eaten cold, which surprises Americans who expect pies to be hot. Pork pies date back to medieval times and became staples of British working-class life. They're often enjoyed with mustard or pickles, and no Christmas buffet is complete without them. To Americans, the idea of cold meat pie with jelly might sound strange, but in Britain, pork pies are tradition wrapped in pastry. 2. Stargazy pie. One of the most visually unusual dishes in Britain, Stargazy pie comes from Cornwall. It's a fish pie where pilchards are baked with eggs and potatoes under a pastry crust, with their heads poking out, appearing to gaze at the stars. The dish is rooted in folklore. According to legend, local fisherman Tom Bawcock once braved stormy seas to catch enough fish to feed his starving village. Stargazy pie commemorates that night and is still made in Mousehole during Tom Bawcock's Eve each December. To Americans, the sight of fish heads in a pie is shocking. To Cornish communities, it's heritage and celebration. 1. Beans on toast. If there's one dish that confuses Americans the most, it's beans on toast. The recipe is simple: toasted bread, butter, and a generous helping of baked beans in tomato sauce, usually Heinz. To Brits, this is comfort food, eaten for breakfast, lunch, or even a late-night snack. It's cheap, quick, and oddly satisfying. Students live on it, families keep it stocked in cupboards, and chefs have even elevated it with gourmet twists. Americans usually can't understand why beans, seen as a barbecue side dish, would be poured over toast. But for Brits, it's a national classic. From black pudding to beans on toast, these are the 10 British foods Americans can't believe people actually eat. Yet each one tells a story of tradition, thrift, or regional pride. They may shock outsiders, but to Brits, they're beloved comfort foods, and proof that cuisine is culture on a plate. Thank you for watching this video. Please don't forget to subscribe and turn on the notification bell.